'Cause I'll be there for you, 'cause we care for you. You're there for me too, my friend. I know it's hard sometimes when you feel left behind. Tell me what's on your mind. Why do this on your own, yeah? 'Cause I'll be there for, 'cause I'll be there for you, my friend.
Welcome to Johnny's Chats. I'm here with Tabby Mac, psychologist. How you doing?
Almost psychologist, John. Not quite there yet,
Oh,
but
yeah,
aspiring. So yeah, exactly. So I'm studying my masters at the moment in health psychology, and yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. So I'm probably one of those people in the slightly lesser percent that's kind of enjoyed lockdown in some ways, which is
yeah,
can feel a bit strange sometimes saying that, because I know there's a lot of difficult things, but I think it's been good to have a bit of a chance to slow down and things like that. I don't know what you think, or
yeah. I think Well, for me, yeah, definitely. Like I found lockdown, like I've come out the other end of it. It's the first lockdown, especially, and now the second one. Yeah, definitely more positive mindset. Like done a lot of self work and that. Like, yeah, well, come out with the idea through first lockdown to start this podcast, and it's got put the ball in motion, the works in motion last week, and yeah, so it's finding the positives out of every negative situation. We're capable of doing that, and we can definitely bring more light into the situation.
yeah, I agree with you in a lot of ways with that, because for me personally, I think before lockdown, it was, rushing to one thing to the other, and I was working in London,
Yeah,
commuting and stuff like that. And the way that we actually met John was through university, and I think that whole time is a time of you know going to juggling different priorities and always being on the go. So I guess it's a bit of a rare opportunity to just slow down and appreciate the moment, which has been good. But I guess as much as we say that, and I think a lot of people say like we're all in the same boat in this
yeah,
situation as well. But you could kind of think actually we're all in the same storm, but we're in like different boats. So some
yeah,
people are
yeah,
in their like private yachts, having a great time, and then some people are in like rubber dinghies with water spilling out of
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah,
Actually, you might feel like you're on different boats day to day as well. So everyone's kind of having their own different experiences, I think.
definitely, 100%. Yeah. So hopefully, from these chats and stuff like that, it'll encourage people to find the positives and do the work, and reach out if they need help and that, and get into the private yachts and that. Like.
Exactly, that's the aim, isn't it? So I think
Yeah.
I think this is like such a great thing that you're doing, and I know we were talking about this before, because when we were at uni we lived in like a house of 8 people, and it'd always be like going to John's room for a chat, really. You've always been that person that you can really just talk to openly and honestly. So I think it's really great that you're doing this work and connecting with loads of different people interested in sort of mental health and well-being as well.
100%, yeah, definitely. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, sound. Yeah, memories back then. That was good year. That was, and yeah. So let's. So if you want to tell us a bit about what you're doing, like with psychology, and like if you've got any pointers for people struggling at the minute with mental health and stuff like that. You said you're studying your masters. Is that specialising in a certain area, or is it, or?
Yeah, so the masters I'm doing is in health psychology at University College London. So it's all about the study around how we can um, cope psychologically with conditions and physical health problems, but
Yeah.
also kind of promoting healthy behaviours. And I think a lot of the time we associate healthy behaviours with things like eating well, exercising, and ways to look after our body. And I think what's really becoming more apparent in the recent kind of years, and especially this year, it's really brought it to the surface, is that we should also be prioritising things that are good for our mental well-being as well, if that makes sense. So and it's something we don't necessarily learn at school in the same way that, you know, fruits and vegetables are good for us, and you know, eating well can impact on our mental well-being as well. But it's just about, you know, how can we incorporate those things into our day-to-day life, and try and reduce the things that maybe the self-sabotage or the endless scrolling on social media and the things that are contributing to poor mental health, really, and mental health struggles.
100%. Yeah, it's all the smaller details that people don't really tend to take into account. You know, what? How would you? So you mentioned self-sabotage. What sort of ways, say, like somebody starts getting into a thought process of like, well, unworthiness and self-sabotage for plans and everything like that. What's a trick of the trade to snap that cycle and change it into a positive mindset? What would you recommend?
So, you know, it's a tough one, and it depends on the person. There's not really a, a magic bullet or a silver pill that kind of fixes every situation. So, you know,
Yeah,
different techniques and approaches work for different people, and I think that's true with mental health, and that's why, you know, you need to work with someone if you're going through the therapy process. Some people respond better to one type of therapy versus another person. But for that example, you know, that kind of ruminating thought, that kind of inner critic that's within you, there are different things you could do. So one example would be to just practice kind of gratitude, talking to yourself kindly,
yeah,
and just thinking about it like, how can you talk to yourself as if you're talking to one of your friends or someone you care about. And that's really all about kind of compassion and things like that.
yeah,
Also, I'd say, like, this is quite a simple one, but just taking action. I think sometimes we just continue thinking about things
yeah,
so much that we never actually do them, so we build it up. But someone said something to me recently, which was, action is the antidote to anxiety, or the antidote to anxiety is action. So actually taking action on those fears or worries,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
kind of almost like pulling off the plaster. And, you know, naturally you have that fear response for that fight or flight, where you just want to either run away from the situation, but
Tackle it on
by
sort
doing
of thing.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, action is important, definitely. So, but obviously, like with the restrictions and all that, like people might struggle to see what actions to take in order to overcome the anxiety. Well, going for walks is always something that could just like, you know, allows the mind to, this is like slow stress reliever, like, you know. But is there any like techniques that you know, sort of thing, like that you teach, that sort of stuff? Like somebody stuck indoors, they can't leave the house in isolation or whatever reason. Like, is there anything there that you know about that they could practice with themselves? Like, I don't know, like
Yeah. So you know, there's all sorts of things. It's really about, you know, that there's a bit of a buzzword, I think, at the moment, which is mindfulness. And just before the
yeah,
chat, we were talking about how you can engage in, like, you know, meditation or mindfulness practice and just have that kind of inner reflection and thought, and that can just really calm the mind and the body as well, because you'll often find that when you're in that anxiety stage, you might feel your heart racing, you might find it hard to concentrate, and that's because of your body responses. You know, you're getting the adrenaline, cortisol, so just giving your body a chance to really just settle and relax can just calm the mind as well. So that's one thing, but, you know, that sort of thing isn't for everyone. So, you know, I recommend just doing things that actually you enjoy and setting aside time for that, because
yeah,
quite often we fill our days with things that we are almost obligated to do, as if it's one big to-do list, that we forget to do the things, the simple things that we enjoy doing, whether it's, you know, drawing or I can't think of any examples of reading or, you know,
And even like building Lego or something like that, do you know? Yeah.
so
Being creative, like, like using that time and that energy that starts coming in can be like, if you block it, it becomes negative, whatever. But like using that energy and creating stuff from it, like you said, drawing, painting, all that sort of stuff is all therapy, 100%. Like, yeah, like we forget about that. It's like. I mean, like, stuff is changing, and like mental health illness is going into the younger generations now. More and more kids are developing mental illness and that. But I mean, like, I think about when I was a kid and all that, just playing with toys, drawing, like being creative, building stuff. It's like that alone time was your most creative time. You know what I mean? Like, that's when you used to really like be in your own little world and like build stuff and draw stuff, and it was quality. You know what I mean? We forget about that as we become adults. That it's like like you said, it's like we have these chores that we have to do. We have to do this, have to do that, but we forget about, well, that inner child that thrives on creativity, spontaneity, and like, yeah, directing that energy into positive stuff. 100%.
no, I completely agree, and you took the words out of my mouth. The inner child that is
Yeah.
all, but we kind of suppress it, and
Yeah.
even, we talk about young people experiencing it more and more, and don't want to necessarily just blame technology, but there's something there that doesn't allow that kind of imagination and,
Yeah.
and as you say, just time to play and
Yeah.
discover things by yourself, and actually learning how not to be bored and things like that
Yeah.
thing about it as well. So yeah, I think that healthy almost distraction but activity is really powerful as well.
Yeah, definitely. You said about technology. That's an interesting one. Like technology, like obviously, like, this might be something that, well, my own opinion is that like technology on the surface is, well, we're connected to everybody at all times. Like send somebody a message, phone call the whole time. Do you know what I mean? It's like we're connected to this cyber world 24/7, 365 days a year. But like you said, we haven't got that time now to be bored and become creative and find ways of filling the boredom that isn't getting on the phone and scrolling Instagram. Like, how would you recommend somebody like taking a step? Because if we tap into that creativity, we can find happiness through it. I reckon. That.
I think this is a question and a topic I could talk about like for all day for the whole session really, because
I could do a feature length video. Do you know what I mean? No problem.
there's so much that into it really, and I think you talk about the fact that we're so connected, and that is it's been a lifeline for so many people, and we wouldn't have this conversation without it. For
Yeah.
example, people are able to stay in touch with their relatives, that person you met on holiday 5 years ago, and see what's going on, and that's all amazing. And we are, it's really cliche to say, but we're social animals and we want to be connected, and that's a big part of their coping mechanism is to have those social connections. So it's brilliant for that in a lot of ways, but as you say, it can be a bit of a double-edged sword that it's about how we use it, why we use it, when we use it as well. And I think that's something that we're learning, because it's not been around that long. If we think about the history of how long our brains have been evolving compared to how long technology and social media has been around, we don't really know the full effects of it
Yeah.
at the moment. But we could compare it to something like when cheeseburgers and fast food came out. We didn't necessarily know the longer term impacts that would have on our health, and same with cigarettes. But research and evidence is showing that they're not so good for us. But it's okay to have fast food in moderation and things like that. But same could go for social media, for example. So it can be a thing that's healthy for us, but again, it's when used in moderation. And we wouldn't go out and eat 10 Big Macs in a row, not most of us anyway, but some of us might spend that many hours scrolling on Instagram, but not really knowing the impact it could have on our ourselves as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. It's like finding the balance sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. Before we came into the recording, you were mentioning a bit of work that you're doing now with the mind that works sort of thing. Like,
Yeah.
do you explain a bit about that and what it involves?
So guess in the work that I do, I work in like workplace mental health. So working with organisations and employees to focus um, on maintaining your well-being, even when you're working, especially as things are changing this year as well. So um, you know things like stress, things like your support that you have at work, like your managers and things like that, and any like changes that happen at work, all those sorts of things can impact on ourselves as well. So we talk about work-life balance, but work can often be quite a big part of your life, and you might spend 8+ hours a day working, so it's all kind of integrated. So I guess it's just around how just how we can make sure that we like prioritize trying to get that balance when things get busy and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. So you work with like the mental health side of the work in an office space and all that, because I suppose like they'll especially now socializing within the office would have been something that might have helped a lot of people, the cooler talk and all that, and then now being in like working from home, you're spending all time in your room on your own, and then you're not going out socialising. You might go for walks and that, or now everything's opening up a bit, go for a bite to eat in the evenings. But during the times where everything's locked down and stuff like that, it's tough on people, and I think that's why a lot of people are starting to feel like there's been an increase in mental illness like depression, anxiety, and all that, and that's people spending the time with themselves, which goes back to what we were saying is that when we was kids, we used to spend all that time on our own and we didn't get these depression, anxiety, and all that. It was like we thrived in that space. What's happened between being a child and becoming an adult that now we spend time on our own and like we can't act it. You know what I mean? It's like
I guess the level of pressure that we're under changes. So you
yeah,
don't really have responsibilities as a child, do you? And you
yeah,
might not need the same like kind of outlets of that social, chat, and as you say, like the water cooler chat, time with colleagues,
yeah.
things like that, to really kind of just get rid of some of that kind of that built up stress that goes on, because a lot of us are managing lots of different projects at work, or are working, maybe they're experiencing conflict, or maybe they're under a lot of pressure. So healthcare workers, for example, teachers in schools, there is a lot of pressure on people in the workplace, especially these days. And actually, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and it's been found that when we work remotely, we actually can be more productive, because we feel that we need to perform better, because we're not all in the office together, so you really want to show the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just that excess. That's all I would imagine anyway. I'm just really guessing at this point, but yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. What would you recommend to anybody out there struggling at the minute? Like, have you got like anybody that, or any websites or applications that you've learned about that people could use and stuff like that in order to try and like get back to healthy mental well-being or changing habits? Any sort of advice out there for anybody?
I think during the first lockdown, I found it quite good to really build a routine, and I read a book called Automatic Habits by James Clear. And at the time, obviously, our structure of our days had completely changed. So a lot of us went from having the daily commute, we'd have our morning coffee, the commute, there's different time blocks that create our days, and without that, the day can kind of span out, and you don't really have things to look forward to. So yeah, I found just trying to set up a bit of a routine for myself, and it's not for everyone, but that just really helped in terms of having a bit of structure, having things to look forward to, even if it was just sort of lunchtime, and that just helped the days go by. So
Small victories.
what's that?
Small victories, like
Yeah,
appreciating the smaller details, you know. Yeah. Like you
yeah,
said before, gratitude is key to that. Definitely. Because even like the fact that we can breathe, function, move, look, talk, you know, like share emotion, all that is all beautiful parts of the human being, man. Like being grateful for it, like, and being aware of it, you know, is like a beautiful thing, you know.
yeah,
And gratitude comes with that, you know. It's like looking at the positive aspects and realizing that the fact that we're even here doing having this chat is a blessing. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
It's all about appreciating, again cliche, but the small things in life, and simple as sort of nature, and the changing seasons, and yeah, just being kind of present in the moment as much as you can, and
Yeah,
again talking about the mindfulness meditation thing, but that sort of practice can really just help with that as well.
yeah.
um, there's another one called the body scan. Have you done this in any of
Uh,
your
yeah.
and
Yeah.
where you just focus on one body part at a time, and you know we forget that we are breathing, as you say, we are living, you know being things, and
Yeah.
the fact that like just noticing those small things can really help.
Definitely. Absolutely. Find the positives and turning them into, you know, like blessings. Like everything's a blessing, man.
Yeah,
Just
I
trying to
think as well, it's like recognizing that you don't have to always be positive. Like you don't have to be happy all the time, and no one is, because we're all human, and
yeah,
just recognizing that when you're if you wake up and you're feeling stressed, just recognizing that you are bigger than that emotion in the moment,
yeah, yeah,
and that it will pass, and that you know life's going to carry on, and you won't always feel like that, which is really hard to dissociate from that feeling when
yeah,
you are feeling like that, because body's in the zone where it wants you to be just focusing on the stress, which is
yeah.
a survival response. But just having that perspective to sit back and just think, this is temporary, and
Yeah,
it will pass as well. And I think that comes with practice as well.
definitely. Like almost become the observer of it, and like you can learn from it as well. You know, like being in like from them negative feelings and all that. If you're observing them and like going through them consciously, you can learn from them as well. And you know, and like then when you get back to positive emotions and feelings and that again, then you've got all that experience from the learning and all of that. You know, yeah, it goes into wisdom and everything. You know, it's life experience.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
Prepares you for the next hurdle, really.
yeah.
That word resilience, I don't know what you think about it, but it's like, every challenge is kind of the opportunity then to grow, and to take what you've learned from that experience into the
Yeah,
next one. Um, and I don't know if you can relate to that as well, because I know, we've all been through like difficult times in our lives, and that almost is, the brain's almost like a muscle, that when you've been through that challenge, you think, how did I react to that? What can I learn from that? And it protects you almost. So yeah.
yeah. Definitely. It's almost yeah. I mean, like I remember, like sometimes I'll have like bad times happen in mine, like the memories come back and that, and I used to be like, oh shit, no, I don't want to think of that, blah blah. But then when I took a step back and like thought, well, what's it trying to teach me here? What haven't I learned from that experience, that lesson? You know, like what haven't I learned from it? Because that's what I found is that memories and experiences, they will repeat themselves until you learn the lesson from it, you know. And then it's like, well, learn that and then on to the next thing, create new ideas and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah, it's that word acceptance, isn't it, as well? Accepting either the past, so things that have happened,
Yeah.
or the present, so how you're feeling,
Yeah.
and maybe the future as well, because we can't control it. So I think, you know, when you can practice accepting things as they are,
Yeah.
and again appreciating what you have as well, that's kind of two things that really help.
Yeah, definitely. That's it, 100%. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Tabby. It's been an absolute blessing to have you on here, like saying your story and that, and all your bits of wisdom that you've learnt along the way.
Thanks, John. No, it's really lovely to
Pleasure.
chat to you, and yeah, good luck with the podcast as well.
Thank you very much. Quickly before we sign off, do you have any links or anything, or anybody that people, if they're struggling, they can reach out to, sort of thing? Like,
Yeah. So
put them in the bio.
for a local mind, so you might have heard of it. They're a mental health charity, and if you go on their website and there's the local mind finder, you can type in your postcode and you'll see what services are being run near to you, which is a good one.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about mindfulness already. I think personally, I use a lot of the Stop, Breathe and Think on YouTube. They do a lot of meditations. They're all completely free, which is great. And then you know, what other information you want. So things like podcasts, are they useful or not really? No, you've got this one, obviously. The others.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some other things. I think.
No worries. I think that's a lot there that you've given out. That'll give people an incentive to reach out if they can, if they want to, and yeah, I'll put that all in the bio. And thank you very much again, Tabby.
Okay. Thanks, John.
All right, yeah, sound done.
'Cause I'll be there for you, 'cause we care for you. You're there for me too, my friend. I know it's hard sometimes when you feel left behind. Tell me what's on your mind. Why do this on your own? Yeah. 'Cause I'll be there for you, my friend. 'Cause I'll be there for you, 'cause you're there for me too. Oh yeah, there for you in the end.